My dad drained my inheritance, saying it was for my own good. The certified letter in my hands feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds, even though it's just a single sheet of paper from grandmother Eleanor's estate attorney. I've read it 3 times now, sitting in my cramped studio apartment that smells perpetually of ramen and broken dreams, and the words still don't make sense. Final distribution of Eleanor May Richardson's estate to sole beneficiary Sarah Elizabeth Richardson, $0. All assets previously distributed to designated trustee as per beneficiary's minority status at time of inheritance. My hands are shaking. I was never a minor when Grandma Eleanor died. I was 18, a legal adult, a high school graduate heading to college. That was 4 years ago, in March of 2019, and I remember Dad sitting me down in his pristine home office, all mahogany desk and leather-bound books, explaining how he'd handle the inheritance situation until I was mature enough to manage that kind of money responsibly. $200,000. That's what Grandma Eleanor left me, her life savings, her final gift, her way of making sure I could build the independent life she never had after Grandpa died. Dad assured me it was growing in a special trust account, earning interest, waiting for me to prove I could handle adult responsibilities. I grab my phone with trembling fingers and call Morrison, Klein & Associates, the law firm whose letterhead has been burned into my retinas. "This is Sarah Richardson," I tell the receptionist, trying to keep my voice steady. "I have questions about my grandmother's estate distribution." 20 minutes of hold music later, I'm speaking with James Morrison himself, the attorney who handled Grandma Eleanor's will. "Ms. Richardson, your father has been managing your inheritance as trustee since March 2019, he explains in that careful lawyer voice. All distributions were made according to his discretionary authority over the trust assets. The final disbursement was made last month." "Disbursement to who?" I ask, though something cold in my stomach already knows. "To himself, as trustee, for what he documented as beneficiary living expenses and educational support." The phone slips in my sweaty palm. Living expenses? Educational support? I've been surviving on grocery store ramen and dollar menu meals for 2 years. I graduated last May with $47,000 in student loans because Dad said the trust couldn't cover tuition, that I needed to have some skin in the game to appreciate my education. I've been working double shifts at Romano's Pizza, coming home every night reeking of pepperoni and defeat, sending Dad my pay stubs like he requested to prove I was being fiscally responsible. Meanwhile, he's been living in his expanded home. The addition was completed last summer, with his new wife Patricia, who drives a BMW and wears a different designer handbag every time I see her at family gatherings. Patricia, who married Dad just 6 months after Grandma Eleanor's funeral. Patricia, who gushed about their Mediterranean cruise last Christmas while I quietly calculated whether I could afford to put gas in my 2003 Honda Civic for the drive home. "Mr. Morrison," I say, my voice barely above a whisper, "I need copies of every transaction record from that trust account. Every single one." "Well, you'd need to request those from your father, as the trustee, or..." "No." The word comes out harder than I intended. "I need them from you. Legal copies. Official documentation." There's a pause. "Ms. Richardson, is there a problem?" I look around my apartment, at the stack of unpaid bills on my coffee table, at my single plate and cup drying in the dish rack, at Grandma Eleanor's photo on my nightstand, the only thing of hers I have left. "Yes," I say. "There's definitely a problem." After 3 days of phone calls, legal research, and what feels like a master class in estate law, I finally understand the scope of what Dad has done. Mr. Morrison was reluctant at first, but when I threatened to file a complaint with the state bar about potential trustee misconduct, his tune changed quickly. The documents arrived via overnight courier, and I've been spread out on my living room floor going through them line by line. March 2019, initial deposit, $200,000. April 2019, withdrawal, $15,000 educational expenses S. Richardson. May 2019, withdrawal, $25,000 living expenses S. Richardson. June 2019, withdrawal, $30,000 educational expenses S. Richardson. I grab my college financial aid records from the milk crate I use as a filing cabinet. Spring 2019 tuition, $8,200. I lived in the dorms, meal plan included. My total expenses that semester couldn't have been more than $12,000, including books and incidentals. So where did the other $58,000 go? The pattern continues, month after month. Educational expenses and living expenses for Sarah Richardson, ranging from $8,000 to $35,000 per month, while I was actually surviving on my part-time campus job income and the occasional $200 allowance Dad would slip me, always with a lecture about budgeting. But it's the entries from October 2020 that make my blood run cold. October 15, 2020, withdrawal, $45,000 emergency beneficiary support. October 23, 2020, withdrawal, $20,000 medical expenses S. Richardson. October 2020. I remember that month perfectly because it's when I got the flu and missed a week of work at the campus bookstore. I couldn't afford to see a doctor, so I wrote it out in my dorm room with Tylenol and stolen cafeteria orange juice. When I called Dad to ask if the trust could cover an urgent care visit, he said the account was in transition and I needed to be more careful about my health. I grab my laptop and start cross-referencing dates. October 15th. October 15th. I find it on Patricia's Facebook page. A photo album labeled Our Dream Kitchen Reveal, showing the marble countertops and custom cabinets in Dad and Patricia's newly renovated kitchen. Posted October 16th, 2020. Hashtags include hashtag blessed, hashtag dreamhouse, hashtag new beginnings. October 23rd. Another Facebook post from Patricia, finally got my deviated septum fixed. Thank you baby for taking such good care of me, red heart, hashtag recovery, hashtag best husband ever, hashtag plastic surgery. Deviated septum surgery. That's what Dad used my inheritance money for, while telling me the trust couldn't cover a $150 urgent care visit for his actual daughter. My phone buzzes. A text from Dad, haven't heard from you this week. Patricia and I are planning Easter brunch at the country club. Can you make it? Dress code is business casual, let me know if you need help with an outfit. Love you. I stare at the message for a long moment. The country club membership alone probably costs more than my monthly rent. And he's offering to buy me clothes like he's being generous, while he's stolen $200,000 from me to fund his new life. I screenshot the text and add it to the folder I created on my phone, evidence. It's getting thick. My phone rings. Unknown number. Sarah Richardson? This is Detective Michelle Santos with the Financial Crimes Unit. Mr. Morrison's office suggested I give you a call. I sit up straighter. Detective Santos, yes, I think I need to report a theft. Why don't you start from the beginning, Ms. Richardson? Take your time. I spend 2 hours on the phone with Detective Santos, walking her through every transaction record, every lie, every moment over the past 4 years when I asked Dad for help and was told I needed to be more responsible. She listens without interrupting, occasionally asking me to repeat a date or dollar amount. Ms. Richardson, I have to ask, did you ever receive any of these funds your father claimed were for your benefit? I pull up my banking records on my laptop. Detective, my highest bank balance in the past 4 years was $1,847. That was last March when I got my tax refund and worked overtime during spring break. The lowest was -$67 in January 2021. -$67 while your father withdrew $32,000 that same month for your supposed living expenses, she says, and I can hear her typing. Sarah, what I'm seeing here is textbook embezzlement and fiduciary fraud. The question is whether we can prove intent. Intent. That's the word that's been haunting me since yesterday. Because there's a tiny, pathetic part of me that keeps whispering maybe Dad really thought he was protecting me. Maybe he planned to pay it back. Maybe. Detective Santos, there's something else. I pull up Patricia's Instagram account. My father's wife documents everything they buy, everywhere they go. It's like a catalog of where my inheritance went. I start scrolling, screenshotting as I go. The Cartier watch Patricia posted in December 2020, early Christmas present from my amazing husband. The vacation photos from Belize in February 2021, captioned living our best life. The brand new Lexus in their driveway from last September. I can send you links to all of this, I tell the detective. She posts constantly. There are probably 50 photos showing them spending money that should have been mine. Send everything. Photos, social media posts, bank records, the trust documentation. I'm opening a case file. After I hang up, I sit in the silence of my apartment, feeling something I haven't felt in years, hope. But it's immediately followed by nausea when I realize what comes next. This isn't just about getting my money back anymore. This is about destroying my father's life, his reputation, his marriage. This is about admitting to myself that the man who raised me, who taught me to ride a bike and helped me with algebra homework, is a thief who stole from his own daughter without losing a single night of sleep. My phone buzzes with another text, this one from my Aunt Carol, Dad's sister. Honey, your father mentioned you might be having some money troubles? If you need help, you know you can always ask family. We're proud of how independent you've been, but don't be too proud to accept support. Red heart. I stare at the message until my eyes blur. Money troubles. That's how he's spinning this to the family. Poor Sarah, struggling because she's too irresponsible to manage money, unlike her financially savvy father who's built such a successful life with his beautiful new wife. The beautiful new wife who's currently posting Instagram stories from what looks like a very expensive spa day. Self-care Sunday, she's written over a photo of her getting a massage. My sweet husband surprised me with a weekend at Canyon Ranch. I'm so blessed. Hashtag self-care, hashtag spoiled, hashtag grateful. Canyon Ranch. I Google it quickly. Weekend packages start at $2,000 per person. I screenshot it and add it to my evidence folder, then start typing a response to Aunt Carol. Thanks for the offer, but I'm doing fine. Just focusing on building my career and being responsible with money, you know how Dad raised me. I delete the message before sending it. Instead, I write, I appreciate that, Aunt Carol. Actually, I'd love to talk to you soon about something important. Are you free for coffee this week? Because Detective Santos is right about one thing, intent matters. And I need to know exactly how long Dad has been planning this, and who else in the family knows the truth about where Grandma Eleanor's money really went. The coffee shop near Aunt Carol's house feels like neutral territory, but my hands are still shaking as I order a black coffee I can't afford and wait for her to arrive. She's always been Dad's closest confidant, the one he calls when he needs advice or validation. If anyone knows the truth about what he's done, it's her. She arrives 10 minutes late, apologizing profusely about traffic, and wraps me in one of those suffocating hugs that makes me want to cry. Aunt Carol has always smelled like vanilla perfume and good intentions. You look thin, sweetheart, she says, settling into the chair across from me. Are you eating enough? Your father mentioned you've been working so hard at that pizza place. I take a sip of bitter coffee and decide to dive in. Aunt Carol, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Her expression shifts slightly, a flicker of something, caution, crossing her face. Of course, honey. What's on your mind? What do you know about my inheritance from Grandma Eleanor? The question hangs in the air like smoke. Aunt Carol's coffee cup freezes halfway to her lips, and for just a moment, her carefully composed expression cracks. Well, she says slowly, your father has been managing it very responsibly. He's told us how proud he is that you've been so independent, working your way through school instead of just living off Eleanor's money like some trust fund baby. Carol. I lean forward. How much do you think I inherited? She shifts uncomfortably. Honey, that's between you and your father. It's not really my $200,000. The number drops between us like a stone. That's what Grandma Eleanor left me. Did you know that? Her face goes pale. Sarah, that's a lot of money. Your father said it was much less, just enough to help with college expenses if you proved you could handle it responsibly. My heart starts racing. What exactly did he tell you? Aunt Carol sets down her coffee cup with shaking hands. He said Eleanor left you about $20,000, and that he was keeping it safe until you graduated and got established. He said you didn't even know the exact amount because he didn't want you to get lazy or entitled. $20,000. He's been lying to his own sister for 4 years, downplaying the theft by 90% to make his management of my inheritance seem reasonable and protective instead of criminal. Carol, I've been living on ramen noodles and working double shifts for 2 years. Last winter, I couldn't afford heat for 3 weeks. I called Dad begging for help, and he told me I needed to learn to budget better. Her hand flies to her mouth. Oh honey, no. If we had known you were struggling, we would have helped. Your father said you were doing fine, that you wanted to be independent. I pull out my phone and show her Patricia's Instagram account. This is where my inheritance actually went. We scroll through months of posts together. The designer handbags, the expensive dinners, the home renovations, the luxury vacations. With each image, Aunt Carol's expression grows more horrified. The kitchen renovation alone cost $60,000, I tell her. I know because I cross-referenced the dates with the trust withdrawals. Dad documented it as medical expenses for me. Sarah. Aunt Carol's voice is barely a whisper. Are you saying your father stole from you? I'm saying my father has been systematically draining my inheritance for 4 years while watching me struggle financially and telling our entire family that I'm too irresponsible to handle money. She's quiet for a long moment, staring at Patricia's latest post, a photo of expensive wine from their anniversary dinner last week. What are you going to do? I've already filed a police report. Detective Santos thinks we have a solid case for embezzlement and fraud. Aunt Carol's coffee cup slips from her hands, hitting the table with a sharp clink. Police? Sarah, he's your father. Surely you can work this out privately. He stole $200,000 from me, Carol. While I was eating mac and cheese from a box and walking to work because I couldn't afford gas. The weight of it all crashes over me again, and I have to grip the edge of the table to stay steady. Your father called me last night, Aunt Carol says quietly, her fingers fidgeting with her napkin. After you texted me about meeting for coffee. My stomach drops. What did he say? He seemed worried. Asked what you wanted to talk about, if you'd seemed upset lately. He said you'd been acting strange, asking questions about Eleanor's will. She looks up at me with troubled eyes. Sarah, he told me you'd been having some kind of breakdown. Stress from work, maybe depression. He said you'd been making accusations, getting confused about money. The coffee turns to acid in my mouth. Of course. He's already 3 steps ahead, laying the groundwork to discredit me. Poor Sarah, struggling with mental health, making wild claims about her devoted father who's only ever tried to help her. Did he say anything else? Aunt Carol hesitates. He asked me to call him immediately after we talked. Said he was worried you might hurt yourself, or make bad decisions based on delusions. I laugh, but it comes out sharp and bitter. Delusions. That's perfect. I pull up my banking app and slide the phone across to her. Carol, this is my actual bank account. Right now. $247.83. That's after working 53 hours last week. She stares at the screen, then at me. But your father said he'd been giving you money. Regular allowances from the trust. He's given me maybe $800 total over 4 years. Usually with a lecture about how I need to prove I can handle responsibility. I retrieve my phone and open my photos. Look at these bank statements. Every month for the past 2 years. Show me where these mysterious allowances are. We spend 20 minutes going through my financial records. My pathetic grocery budget, the months where I had to choose between electricity and textbooks, the overdraft fees that ate into my pizza delivery tips. By the end, Aunt Carol is crying. He showed us pictures of your apartment, she whispers. Said you were choosing to live minimally, that it was some kind of personal growth phase. He made it sound like you were finding yourself. Finding myself? I gesture around the coffee shop. This is literally the first time I bought coffee somewhere other than a gas station in 8 months. My phone buzzes with a text from Dad. Carol just called. She's very worried about you. I think we need to have a family meeting tonight. Patricia and I are coming over. I show Aunt Carol the message. He's panicking. He knows I'm putting the pieces together. Maybe you should talk to him, she says desperately. Let him explain. There might be something we don't understand. Carol, I need you to think very carefully about something. I lean forward. When Dad married Patricia, how did he afford the wedding? The honeymoon to Europe? Patricia's ring cost more than most people's cars. Her face crumbles. He said business was going really well. Some big contracts came through. What business? His consulting firm has been struggling for 3 years. I know because he used to complain about it constantly before Patricia came along. I pull up Patricia's Facebook photos from their wedding. Look at this reception. The venue alone probably cost $30,000. This was October 2020, right when he was withdrawing money for my supposed emergency medical expenses. Aunt Carol stares at the lavish wedding photos, the ice sculpture, the live band, Patricia's designer dress. Oh God, Sarah. What has he done? My phone rings. Dad's contact photo fills the screen, a picture from my college graduation, both of us smiling, his arm around my shoulders. Back when I still believed he was protecting me. I decline the call, but it immediately starts ringing again. He's not going to stop, I tell Aunt Carol. And tonight, he's going to come to my apartment and try to convince me I'm having some kind of breakdown. He'll probably suggest therapy, maybe medication. Anything to make this look like my problem instead of his crime. The phone stops ringing, then immediately buzzes with a voicemail notification. I put it on speaker. Dad's voice fills the space between us, warm and concerned and absolutely convincing. Sweetheart, Carol told me you're struggling with some confusing thoughts about money. I want you to know we're all here for you. Don't make any rash decisions until we can sit down and talk this through properly. I love you, and I'm going to help you get through this difficult time. Aunt Carol looks like she might be sick. He's good at this, I say quietly. He's had 4 years of practice. That evening, I'm sitting in my apartment with all the evidence spread across my coffee table when I hear the knock I've been dreading. 3 sharp raps, then Dad's voice. Sarah? It's Dad and Patricia. We brought dinner. I look through the peephole and see them standing in the hallway, Dad holding a bag from Marcello's, the expensive Italian place downtown, and Patricia clutching her purse like a shield. She looks nervous, which is unusual for someone who normally acts like she owns every room she enters. I open the door but don't invite them in. Sweetheart. Dad's voice is pure liquid concern. Carol told me about your coffee date today. I think there's been some confusion. No confusion, Dad. Just clarity. I step aside to let them in, mainly because I want Patricia to see how I've been living while she's been spending my inheritance on spa weekends. Patricia's eyes widen as she takes in my studio apartment, the mattress on the floor, the milk crate furniture, the stack of unpaid bills. For just a moment, something that might be guilt flickers across her face. Oh honey, she says softly. I didn't realize, your father said you preferred minimalist living. Dad shoots her a sharp look. Sarah's been exploring different lifestyle choices. Very admirable, actually. I gesture to my coffee table, where bank statements and trust documents are arranged in neat piles. Sit down, Dad. Both of you. Let's talk about my lifestyle choices. He sees the paperwork and goes very still. Sarah, where did you get those documents? From Morrison, Klein and Associates. You remember, Grandma Eleanor's lawyers. I pick up the trust summary. Interesting reading. Did you know that according to these records, you've spent $43,000 on my educational expenses this year alone? That's fascinating, considering I graduated 8 months ago. Patricia looks between us, confusion evident on her face. Tom, what is she talking about? Patricia, why don't you tell me about Canyon Ranch? I pull out my phone and show her Instagram post from last weekend. How was the couple's massage? The one that cost more than I make in a month? Her face goes white. Tom paid for that. It was an anniversary gift. With money from my grandmother's trust. Money that was supposed to be mine. I turn to Dad, who's been silent, calculating. $43,000 this year, Dad. What educational expenses were those for? My graduate degree in poverty management? He sighs and runs his hands through his hair, a gesture I remember from childhood, usually right before he'd ground me for something. Sarah, you're not seeing the big picture here. That money has been working for you. Working for me? I grabbed the Canyon Ranch receipt I'd found in Patricia's Facebook photos. $2,000 for a spa weekend worked for me how, exactly? Patricia gasps. Tom, you said that money came from your business profits. The silence stretches between us like a chasm. Dad's jaw tightens, and I see him make a decision. Sarah, I think you need professional help. This obsession with money, these paranoid accusations, it's not healthy. His voice takes on that reasonable, parental tone that used to make me doubt myself. Patricia and I have discussed it, and we think you should see Dr. Brennan. He's excellent with stress-related disorders. Stress-related disorders. I repeat the word slowly. Is that what we're calling theft now? Tom. Patricia's voice is shaky. Just tell me the truth. Where did the money for our renovations come from? The wedding? My car? Dad turns to her with that same reasonable expression. Patricia, Sarah has been under enormous pressure. She's creating elaborate fantasies about money that doesn't exist. The trust was a small educational fund, maybe $15,000 total. She's blown this completely out of proportion. I watch Patricia's face as he lies directly to her, and I see the exact moment she chooses to believe him instead of the evidence in front of her eyes. Of course, she says quietly. Sarah, honey, maybe some counseling would help. This kind of financial anxiety is more common than you think. I stare at both of them, and something cold and final settles in my chest. They're going to gaslight me together, united against the crazy daughter who doesn't understand how money works. My phone buzzes with a text from Detective Santos. Can you meet tomorrow at 9 a.m.? We have some developments. I hold up my phone so they can both see Detective Santos's text message. Actually, I have a meeting with the Financial Crimes Unit tomorrow morning. Detective Santos is very interested in discussing the $200,000 you stole from me. Dad's mask finally slips. The concerned father expression vanishes, replaced by something cold and calculating that I've never seen before. You called the police? On your own father? I reported a crime. The fact that you're my father just makes it worse. Patricia stands up abruptly, her designer handbag clutched against her chest. Tom, I think we should go. This is getting out of hand. Sit down, Patricia. Dad's voice has an edge I've never heard before. She freezes, then slowly sinks back onto my second-hand couch. Sarah, you need to understand something. You have no proof of anything illegal. I laugh, but there's no humor in it. I have 4 years of bank records showing you withdrew money for my expenses while I was overdrafting my account to buy groceries. I have photographs of Patricia spending thousands of dollars on the exact dates you claimed medical emergencies. I have your lies to Aunt Carol about the inheritance amount. Circumstantial evidence and family gossip. Dad leans back, and now he looks like a businessman who's closed difficult deals. Besides, everything I did was within my legal authority as trustee. The trust document gives me complete discretion over distributions. My stomach drops. What are you talking about? He pulls out his phone and scrolls through what looks like a legal document. The trust Eleanor established wasn't just a simple inheritance, Sarah. It was a discretionary trust with specific language about financial responsibility and maturity requirements. I have absolute authority to determine when and how funds are distributed. You're lying. But even as I say it, something cold is creeping up my spine. Page 4, Section 12. He hands me his phone. The trustee may withhold distributions if the beneficiary demonstrates financial irresponsibility, lack of maturity, or inability to manage substantial assets in a prudent manner. I read the words 3 times, my hands shaking. The legal language is dense, but the meaning is clear. Dad has broad discretionary power over my inheritance. But there's more. Furthermore, I read aloud, my voice barely steady, trustee compensation shall be 20% of annual trust income, plus reasonable expenses for trust management and beneficiary support. 20%. Plus expenses. I look up at him, and he's actually smiling. I've been earning trustee fees this entire time, Sarah. Every spa weekend, every renovation, every expense related to your support has been legally documented and completely legitimate under the trust terms. Patricia looks confused. Tom, I thought you said the trust was only $15,000 total. I simplified the explanation for everyone's benefit. He takes his phone back. The trust was substantial, but Sarah has proven over 4 years that she lacks basic financial skills. Living paycheck to paycheck, working minimum wage jobs, accumulating debt, hardly the behavior of someone ready to manage significant assets. Because you never gave me access to my money. The words come out as a shout. You created the exact situation you're using to justify keeping it. I created a character-building experience. Most trust fund babies never learn real work ethic. I stare at him, this stranger wearing my father's face, and realize the scope of what he's done. It's not just theft, it's been a systematic 4-year campaign to manufacture evidence of my supposed irresponsibility while he legally plundered my inheritance through trustee fees and creative expense documentation. The discretionary language might protect you, I say slowly, but documenting Patricia's spa days as my medical expenses is still fraud. His smile doesn't waver. Patricia and I are married, Sarah. Her well-being directly impacts my ability to serve as an effective trustee. Self-care expenses for the trustee's household are completely defensible. My phone buzzes with another text from Detective Santos. Sarah, after reviewing your case with the prosecutor's office, we need to discuss some complications with the trust structure. Can you bring all original documentation tomorrow? Dad notices my expression change as I read. Legal problems, sweetheart? The meeting with Detective Santos feels like walking into my own execution. The police station conference room smells like stale coffee and broken dreams, and the detective's expression when I walk in tells me everything I need to know before she even opens her mouth. Ms. Richardson, please sit down. She gestures to a plastic chair across from a table covered in my case files. I've spent the weekend reviewing your documentation with our legal team and the district attorney's office. I clutch my folder of additional evidence, more screenshots from Patricia's social media, printed bank statements, even a recording I made of last night's confrontation with Dad. Detective Santos, I have more proof. My father essentially confessed that he's been using Patricia's expenses as trust deductions. Sarah. She holds up her hand. I need you to listen carefully. Your father's attorney contacted us yesterday. My blood turns to ice water. His attorney? James Kellerman from Kellerman, Price and Associates. He provided us with a complete trust documentation, including amendments that weren't in your original packet from Morrison, Klein. She slides a thick legal document across the table. The pages are marked with yellow sticky notes, and I can see my father's signature on multiple pages, along with notary seals and dates spanning the past 4 years. What amendments? It appears your grandmother's original will establish a standard discretionary trust, but your father has been making legal modifications to the trust terms with court approval. The most recent amendment was filed last month. I flip to the flagged page and read the highlighted section. Upon beneficiary's 22nd birthday, if the trustee determines that beneficiary has failed to demonstrate adequate financial responsibility and maturity, the trust shall convert to a permanent discretionary structure with no mandatory distribution requirements. The words blur together as I read them again. 22nd birthday. That was 3 months ago. This says he can keep my inheritance forever if he decides I'm not responsible enough. That's correct. And according to the documentation his attorney provided, your father has been building a case file for the past 2 years. Detective Santos pulls out another folder. Employment records showing job changes, bank statements showing overdrafts, debt accumulation, even photographs of your living conditions. She spreads the photos across the table, and I recognize my apartment from multiple angles, the mattress on the floor, the empty refrigerator, the stack of unpaid bills. Someone took these recently, probably when I wasn't home. He's been documenting my poverty, I whisper. The poverty he created by stealing from me. From a legal standpoint, Sarah, he's been documenting what appears to be financial instability in someone who theoretically had access to trust distributions. But I never had access. He told me I had to prove myself first. Detective Santos's expression is sympathetic but grim. Here's the problem, there's no legal requirement that he inform you about your ability to request distributions. The trust language gives him complete discretion to approve or deny requests, and to set whatever conditions he deems appropriate. I feel like I'm drowning. So everything he did was legal? The trustee fee structure appears legitimate. The expense documentation, while creative, falls within the broad discretionary language. Even the recent amendment follows proper legal channels. She pauses. However, there's something else. She pulls out a document I haven't seen before, handwritten pages in my grandmother's careful script. Your Aunt Carol contacted us yesterday. She found these in your grandmother's papers, a letter Eleanor wrote but never sent, dated 1 week before her death. My hands shake as I take the pages. Grandma Eleanor's words, in her own handwriting. My dearest Sarah, I pray you never have to read this, but I've been having troubling thoughts about your father's financial situation. Patricia has expensive tastes, and Thomas's business has been struggling more than he admits. I decided to modify my will to create protections for your inheritance, a simple direct bequest instead of the trust structure Thomas suggested. I have an appointment with Mr. Morrison next Tuesday to make the changes. If something happens to me before then, please know that I intended for you to receive your inheritance free and clear on your 18th birthday, with no trustee involvement. The money was meant to give you the independence I never had, not to become a tool for others to control your life. I love you more than words can say. Grandma Eleanor. The letter is dated March 10, 2019. Grandma Eleanor died on March 12, 2019, in her sleep, 2 days before her appointment with a lawyer. Detective Santos watches me read, then says quietly, Sarah, this suggests your grandmother intended to remove your father as trustee entirely. The trust structure that's been controlling your inheritance may not have been what she actually wanted. I look up at her, hope flickering in my chest. Does this change anything legally? It might. Kellerman is claiming the letter is irrelevant because no legal changes were made before Eleanor's death. But if we can prove your father knew about her intentions and deliberately prevented her from making those changes. She trails off. You think he knew she was going to cut him out? I think we need to examine the timeline very carefully. Your grandmother dies 2 days before an appointment to change her will, leaving your father in control of $200,000 right when his business is failing and he's planning to marry an expensive woman. My phone buzzes with a text from Dad. Sarah, Patricia told me you left some documents here last night. I have them in my office whenever you'd like to pick them up. We should also discuss your living situation. The apartment seems inadequate for someone from our family. I show the message to Detective Santos. He's still playing games. What documents did you leave there? I think back to last night's confrontation. I didn't leave anything. I was careful to take everything with me. Then it hits me. Unless he's talking about the copies I made of Grandma Eleanor's personal letters. I had them on the coffee table when they arrived. Detective Santos leans forward. What letters? Birthday cards, notes she wrote me over the years. I keep copies of them. My stomach drops as I realize what he might have found. Detective, there's a birthday card from my 18th birthday where Grandma Eleanor mentions being excited to help me get started in life with her gift. She wrote that she couldn't wait to see me free and independent after graduation. That card could support the timeline that she intended immediate distribution, not a long-term trust. Detective Santos starts gathering her files. Sarah, I think your father is trying to ensure we don't see those personal letters. Can you think of any reason why? I remember Grandma Eleanor's last birthday card to me, the one that arrived a week before she died. She'd written something about making sure I'd never have to depend on anyone else's approval for my own security. At the time, I thought she was just talking about getting a good education. Now I realize she was trying to tell me she'd left me money that no one else could control. Detective, I think my father has been planning this since before Grandma Eleanor died. And I think she knew it. The next morning, I'm standing outside Dad's house at 6:47 a.m., watching through the kitchen window as he makes coffee in his gleaming marble kitchen, the one paid for with my emergency medical expenses. Patricia isn't visible, probably still sleeping off another evening of wine that costs more than my monthly grocery budget. I know Dad's morning routine by heart. Coffee first, then 20 minutes scrolling through financial news on his tablet before Patricia wakes up. It's the only time he's alone, and I need those letters back before Detective Santos and I meet with the district attorney this afternoon. I use my old key. He never changed the locks, probably never imagined I'd have reason to sneak into my childhood home like a burglar. The house smells like Patricia's expensive candles and fresh flowers, such a contrast to my studio apartment that still carries the scent of last week's ramen. Dad's office is exactly as I remember, mahogany desk, leather chair, walls lined with business achievement awards that now seem like props in an elaborate performance. The documents are there, spread across his desk like he's been studying them, my grandmother's birthday cards, her personal notes to me, even the letter she sent when I started college talking about my bright future and how her savings would help me build it. But there's something else. A yellow legal pad covered in Dad's handwriting, titled Sarah Richardson, Competency Documentation. My blood runs cold as I read his notes. March 2022, subject overdraft account 3 times, demonstrates inability to manage basic budgeting. June 2022, employment terminated from campus bookstore, attendance issues, shows lack of professional reliability. September 2022, requested emergency funds for car repairs but spent money on non-essential items, evidence, social media post showing dinner out with friends same week. December 2022, living conditions deteriorated further, apartment lacks basic furnishings, suggests poor prioritization skills. Each entry is meticulously dated and cross-referenced with photos, bank statements, and even screenshots from my sparse social media accounts. He's been building a comprehensive case file to prove I'm financially incompetent, while simultaneously ensuring I remained financially desperate. But it's the entry at the bottom that makes my hands shake. January 2023, subject beginning to ask questions about trust structure and inheritance timeline. Recommend acceleration of permanent discretionary conversion before subject seeks outside legal counsel. Patricia concerned about subject's increasingly erratic behavior and accusations. He's been planning to permanently lock away my inheritance for months. The amended trust documents Detective Santos showed me weren't a recent reaction to my investigation, they were the culmination of a long-term strategy. I photograph every page of his notes with my phone, then carefully return everything to its original position. As I'm about to leave, I hear Patricia's voice from upstairs. Tom? Did you hear something downstairs? I freeze, clutching my grandmother's letters against my chest. Dad's footsteps move toward the staircase. Just checking the coffee maker, he calls back. Go back to sleep. I slip out through the back door, my heart hammering as I make it to my car. But as I'm driving away, I realize I've gained something more valuable than just my grandmother's letters. I have proof of premeditation. My phone rings as I pull into a gas station parking lot to compose myself. Detective Santos. Sarah, I have news. We pulled your grandmother's medical records from the week before she died. What kind of news? She had a cardiology appointment on March 11th, the day after she wrote that letter about changing her will. Her doctor says she was in excellent health for her age. No signs of imminent heart failure. I grip the phone tighter. What are you saying? I'm saying a woman healthy enough to pass a cardiac stress test doesn't typically die peacefully in her sleep 12 hours later. We're requesting an exhumation order. The words hit me like a physical blow. I pull over completely, hands shaking so badly I can barely hold the phone. Detective Santos, are you saying you think my father, that Grandma Eleanor didn't die naturally? I'm saying we need to examine all possibilities. Your grandmother was planning to cut your father out of a $200,000 inheritance, and she died 36 hours before she could make that change legally binding. Her voice is careful, professional. The timing raises questions. I sit in my car outside the gas station, staring at Dad's handwritten notes on my phone screen. The methodical planning, the calculated manipulation, suddenly it all looks even more sinister. How long does an exhumation take? The court hearing is scheduled for Friday. If approved, we're looking at 2 to 3 weeks for the full toxicology panel. She pauses. Sarah, I need you to be very careful right now. If your father realizes we're investigating your grandmother's death, he might become desperate. As if summoned by her warning, my phone buzzes with an incoming call. Dad's contact photo fills the screen, that graduation picture where we're both smiling, completely unaware that 4 years later I'd be sitting in a gas station parking lot discussing whether he's a murderer. He's calling me right now. Don't answer. Come straight to the station. We need to discuss protective measures. I decline Dad's call, but immediately a text appears. Sarah, I know you were in the house this morning. We need to talk immediately. This has gone far enough. My blood turns to ice water. He knows I was there. Which means he knows I saw his documentation file, his competency notes, his timeline for permanently seizing my inheritance. Another text, I'm trying to protect you from making a terrible mistake. These police officers are filling your head with impossible theories. Meet me at Romano's Pizza at 2 p.m. Just you and me, like when you were little and we'd solve problems together. Romano's Pizza. Where I work, where I've been grinding through double shifts to survive on the money that should have been mine all along. The location choice feels deliberately cruel. Detective Santos is still on the line. Sarah? What's happening? He wants to meet me at my workplace at 2 p.m. He knows I was in his house. I screenshot the texts and send them to her. Detective, the notes I found, he's been planning to lock away my inheritance permanently for months. This wasn't just opportunistic theft. Forward me those photos immediately. And Sarah, do not meet him alone. But if I don't show up, won't that make him more suspicious about what we're investigating? If our suspicions about your grandmother are correct, your father has already killed once to protect this money. The words hang in the air between us. Killed once. My grandmother, who raised me every summer, who taught me to bake cookies and play chess, who wrote me letters about independence and freedom, murdered by her own son for money that was meant to be mine. Another text from Dad. Patricia is very upset about your accusations yesterday. She's been crying all morning. You're destroying our family with these paranoid fantasies. Please don't make this worse than it already is. I stare at the message, recognizing the manipulation tactics he's perfected over 4 years. Make me feel guilty for causing drama. Position himself and Patricia as the victims of my unreasonable behavior. Frame my legitimate claims as mental health issues. But now I can see the pattern clearly, and I understand that everything I thought I knew about my father, about my grandmother's death, about my own life for the past 4 years, has been built on lies that go deeper than theft. My phone rings again. This time it's Aunt Carol. Sarah, your father called me. He says you broke into his house and stole documents. He's talking about having you committed for psychiatric evaluation. The psychiatric evaluation threat hits me like a punch to the gut. I sit in my car, phone pressed to my ear, listening to Aunt Carol's panicked voice while the reality of Dad's next move becomes crystal clear. He's saying you've had a complete breakdown, Carol continues, her words tumbling over each other. That you're making wild accusations about murder, that you broke into his home and stole legal documents. Sarah, he sounds genuinely terrified for your safety. Of course he does. He's had 4 years to perfect his performance as a concerned father dealing with his unstable daughter. Carol, listen to me very carefully. Did he mention anything about having me involuntarily committed? He said if you don't get help voluntarily, he might have to petition the court for a 72-hour psychiatric hold. He has documentation of erratic behavior, financial delusions, paranoid thinking. Her voice drops to a whisper. Honey, he showed me photos of your apartment. The mattress on the floor, the empty cabinets. He says you've been living like this by choice, refusing help, getting worse every month. My hands are shaking so badly I can barely hold the phone. A psychiatric hold would destroy everything. Detective Santos's investigation, the exhumation order, my credibility, all of it would crumble the moment Dad convinced a judge that I'm having a mental health crisis. And the terrifying thing is, he might actually succeed. I do look unstable on paper. The job changes, the overdraft accounts, the sparse living conditions. Without context, my accusations about stolen inheritance and potential murder would sound exactly like paranoid delusions. Carol, I need you to listen to me. Really listen. Dad has been systematically stealing my inheritance for 4 years while creating evidence that I'm financially irresponsible. Yesterday, I found handwritten notes in his office documenting my incompetency going back 2 years. He's been planning this. Sarah, that doesn't make sense. Why would he document anything if he was stealing? Because the trust allows him to keep my inheritance permanently if he can prove I'm not capable of managing money. He manufactured my poverty, then used that poverty as evidence that I don't deserve my own inheritance. There's a long silence. Then Carol says quietly, the police really think Eleanor was murdered? They're requesting an exhumation. Grandma Eleanor was planning to remove Dad as trustee 2 days before she died. She had a clean cardiac workup the day before her death. Another silence, longer this time. When Carol speaks again, her voice has changed. Sarah, there's something I never told anyone. The morning after Eleanor died, I went to her house to help your father with arrangements. Her medicine cabinet was completely cleaned out. I thought it was strange because she had prescriptions, daily vitamins, even over-the-counter things. Everything was gone. My blood runs cold. What did Dad say when you asked about it? He said he'd already disposed of everything, that he didn't want expired medication sitting around. But Sarah, some of those bottles were brand new. Her blood pressure medication had just been refilled 3 days earlier. Evidence disposal. He cleaned out anything that might show up in toxicology testing, then waited 4 years to cash in on the inheritance while slowly destroying my credibility. Carol, I need you to tell Detective Santos exactly what you just told me. I can't get involved in this, honey. If you're wrong about Tom, if this really is some kind of breakdown, then help me prove it's not. My voice comes out sharper than I intended. Come with me to the police station right now. Look at the evidence Detective Santos has collected. If I'm delusional, the documents won't make sense. But if I'm right, you'll see the pattern. My phone buzzes with another call. Dad again. I decline it, but immediately receive a text. Sarah, I've made an appointment with Dr. Brennan for 4 p.m. today. Emergency consultation. Patricia and I will pick you up at 3:30. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. I screenshot the message and forward it to Detective Santos with a note. He's accelerating the psychiatric hold timeline. Moving fast now. Her response comes back immediately. Do not go with them. Come to station now. Bring Carol if possible. Carol, I say, reading Detective Santos's text. Dad wants to take me to a psychiatrist this afternoon for an emergency consultation. You know what happens next, right? Dr. Brennan recommends immediate evaluation. Dad petitions for involuntary commitment, and by tonight I'm locked in a psychiatric facility while he destroys evidence and spins this whole thing as his poor daughter's tragic breakdown. Oh God. Carol's voice is barely a whisper. Sarah, what if you just disappeared for a few days? Left town until this gets sorted out? Running would make me look guilty of something. Worse, it would look like proof that I'm mentally unstable. I start my car and pull out of the gas station parking lot. I'm going to the police station. Right now. Are you coming with me or not? There's a long pause. Then, meet me there in 20 minutes. And Sarah? Bring those photos you took of your father's notes. If Tom really killed his own mother for money, I want to see him burn. As I drive toward the police station, my phone rings one more time. Dad's contact photo appears, and this time I answer. Hello, Dad. Sarah. His voice is different now, no more pretended concern, no more fatherly warmth. Just cold calculation. You have 1 hour to return what you stole from my office and meet me at Dr. Brennan's. After that, I stopped trying to handle this quietly. Is that a threat? It's a promise. You're not going to destroy everything I built with your sick fantasies about your grandmother's death. One way or another, this ends today. The line goes dead, and I realize I'm no longer just fighting for my inheritance. I'm fighting for my freedom. The police station feels like a fortress when I pull into the parking lot, but my sense of safety evaporates the moment I see the black BMW already parked near the entrance. Patricia's car. Which means Dad got here first. My hands shake as I text Detective Santos, Dad's here. Silver BMW in your parking lot. Her response is immediate, back entrance. Officer Martinez waiting for you. I drive around the building, heart hammering against my ribs. Officer Martinez, a woman about my age with kind eyes and a no-nonsense posture, waves me toward an unmarked door. Ms. Richardson? Detective Santos is waiting upstairs. Your father arrived 15 minutes ago with an attorney and a woman claiming to be his wife. Patricia. The name tastes bitter. What do they want? They're filing a missing persons report. Claiming you're experiencing a psychiatric emergency and may be a danger to yourself or others. The words hit me like ice water. I'm literally walking into a police station of my own free will. Detective Santos is handling it. But Ms. Richardson, they brought documentation. Medical records, financial statements, photographs. Your father is very prepared. We climb a back staircase, and through a window I catch a glimpse of the main lobby. Dad sits in a plastic chair, wearing his best concerned father expression, while Patricia clutches tissues and dabs at her eyes. His attorney, a sharp-faced woman in an expensive suit, appears to be showing paperwork to the desk sergeant. Sarah. Detective Santos appears at the top of the stairs. Thank God you're here. We need to move fast. She leads me into a conference room where my case files are spread across a table like pieces of a puzzle. But there are new additions, documents I've never seen before. Your father's attorney just handed us these. She points to a stack of medical records. Psychiatric evaluations from Dr. Harrison dating back to last year. Depression, anxiety, financial obsessive-compulsive tendencies. I stare at the papers in disbelief. I've never seen Dr. Harrison in my life. The appointments were allegedly arranged and paid for by your father. Insurance billing shows regular sessions from March 2022 through January 2023. Detective Santos flips through the pages. According to these records, you've been expressing paranoid delusions about inheritance theft, making threats against family members, showing signs of deteriorating reality testing. My legs give out and I sink into a chair. He created a fake medical history. An entire year of psychiatric treatment that never happened. It gets worse. Dr. Harrison's final report recommends immediate involuntary commitment if you refuse voluntary treatment. It's dated 2 weeks ago. The scope of Dad's planning hits me like a physical blow. He didn't just steal my inheritance, he spent months creating a comprehensive alternate reality where I'm mentally ill and dangerous. Every move calculated, every detail planned. Detective, Aunt Carol should be here soon. She has information about Grandma Eleanor's medications being disposed of immediately after her death. Sarah, there's been a development with the exhumation request. Detective Santos's expression grows grim. Your father's attorney filed an emergency injunction an hour ago. They're claiming the request is based on the delusional statements of a mentally incompetent family member. My phone buzzes with a text from Carol, can't make it to station. Tom called me, very upset. Says you threatened Patricia and broke into their house. Sarah, I'm scared you might really be having problems. Maybe you should talk to Dr. Brennan. I stare at the message, watching my last family ally slip away in real time. Dad's getting to everyone, spinning his web of concern and documentation, making my claims look increasingly unhinged. He's winning, I whisper. Even Carol thinks I'm crazy now. Detective Santos leans forward. Sarah, I need you to focus. We have maybe 30 minutes before your father's attorney convinces a judge to issue an emergency psychiatric hold. Tell me everything you remember about the days before your grandmother died. Every conversation, every detail. I close my eyes, trying to think past the panic flooding my system. The week before Grandma Eleanor died, she called me every night. She'd never done that before, usually we talked on Sundays. What did you talk about? School mostly, but she kept asking about my plans after graduation. Whether I thought about graduate school, buying a house, starting my own business. I pause, remembering her voice, urgent in a way that seemed strange at the time. She kept saying things like you'll have options soon and don't let anyone tell you what you can't afford. Detective Santos makes notes. Anything about your father? She asked if Dad seemed stressed about money. When I said yes, she got quiet for a long time. Then she said something that didn't make sense then. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect us are the ones we need protection from. My phone rings. Unknown number. I answer on speaker. Sarah Richardson? The voice is crisp, professional. This is Dr. Margaret Brennan. Your father has asked me to conduct an emergency psychiatric evaluation. I have an opening at 4 p.m. today. Detective Santos gestures for me to keep talking. Dr. Brennan, I appreciate the call, but I haven't requested any evaluation. Your father is deeply concerned about your welfare. He's provided extensive documentation of concerning behaviors, financial delusions, breaking and entering, making serious accusations against family members without basis. What if the accusations have basis? There's a pause. Sarah, your father showed me photographs of your living conditions, your employment history, bank records showing repeated overdrafts and poor financial decisions. These patterns, combined with your recent paranoid statements, suggest you're experiencing a significant psychological crisis. I feel the trap closing around me. Every piece of evidence of my financial struggles Dad deliberately created, is being weaponized as proof of mental illness. Dr. Brennan, before you make any recommendations, would you be willing to review evidence that my financial problems were artificially created by systematic theft of my inheritance? Sarah, that's exactly the kind of delusional thinking that concerns your father. $200,000 is a significant sum. If such money existed and was stolen, you would have involved law enforcement long ago instead of living in poverty. Detective Santos takes the phone from me. Dr. Brennan, this is Detective Santos with the Financial Crimes Unit. Ms. Richardson is involved in an active embezzlement investigation. Any psychiatric evaluation should be postponed until our investigation concludes. Silence stretches across the line. Then, Detective, I wasn't aware law enforcement was involved. However, if Sarah is making false accusations as part of a psychological episode, that doesn't change her need for immediate intervention. The accusations aren't false. We have documentation. I'll need to speak with Thomas Richardson about these new developments. Thank you for the information. The line goes dead. Detective Santos immediately starts dialing. We're out of time. She's going to call your father, and he's going to accelerate everything. She speaks rapidly to whoever answers. Judge Martinez? Detective Santos. I need an emergency protective order for Sarah Richardson. Her family is attempting involuntary psychiatric commitment to prevent her cooperation in a financial crimes investigation. While she talks, I watch through the conference room window as Dad paces in the lobby below, his phone pressed to his ear. Patricia sits motionless, staring at her hands. His attorney is showing more documents to what looks like a court official who just arrived. Sarah. Detective Santos hangs up. Judge Martinez will see us in chambers in 20 minutes. But there's something else. Carol just called the station. She found something in your grandmother's papers. Letters your grandmother wrote but never sent, all addressed to Morrison, Klein and Associates. She's bringing them now. My phone buzzes with a text from Dad. Dr. Brennan confirmed you're with police, making more wild accusations. Sarah, you have 15 minutes to walk out of that building voluntarily, or Patricia and I will be forced to take legal action to protect you from yourself. This is your last chance to handle this privately. 15 minutes. I look at Detective Santos, who's gathering files with military efficiency. What happens if his psychiatric hold gets approved before we reach the judge? Then you disappear into the mental health system for 72 hours minimum, during which time evidence can disappear and stories can be coordinated. She meets my eyes. Sarah, I need you to understand, if we lose this motion, your father wins everything. Your inheritance, your credibility, possibly your freedom. Through the window, I see Carol's car pull into the parking lot. She's clutching a manila envelope against her chest as she hurries toward the building. Detective, I say, watching my aunt navigate between Dad and the entrance, I think we're about to find out exactly what Grandma Eleanor knew before she died. Carol bursts through the conference room door, her face flushed and her hands shaking as she clutches the manila envelope. Sarah, I found them in Eleanor's sewing box. She hid them under the fabric scraps. Detective Santos immediately clears space on the table. What kind of letters? Drafts. Multiple versions of the same letter to Morrison, Klein and Associates, all dated a week before she died. Carol's voice wavers as she opens the envelope. Tom doesn't know I have these. When he called me an hour ago, I lied and said I couldn't find anything else. She spreads out 4 handwritten pages, each one marked with Eleanor's careful script and multiple crossouts and revisions. Detective Santos photographs each page immediately while I read over her shoulder. The first draft is hesitant. Dear Mr. Morrison, I've been reconsidering the trust structure for Sarah's inheritance. Perhaps a simpler arrangement would be more appropriate. The second version is stronger. I have concerns about Thomas's financial situation and believe Sarah should receive her inheritance directly upon my death, without trustee involvement. But it's the third draft that makes my blood run cold. Mr. Morrison, I have discovered disturbing information about my son's business practices and personal expenses. Patricia showed me receipts yesterday for a $15,000 engagement ring, claiming Thomas told her his mother was taking care of everything for their wedding expenses. I never agreed to fund their marriage. Thomas has been making financial promises using my estate as collateral, and I fear he's already spending money he doesn't have legal access to. Carol points to a section that's been crossed out and rewritten multiple times. I also found Thomas in my office last week, going through my financial documents when he thought I was napping. When confronted, he claimed he was helping me organize, but several of my bank statements were missing afterward. I'm changing my locks and moving important documents to my safety deposit box. She knew, I whisper. She knew Dad was planning to steal from me, and she was trying to protect my inheritance. Detective Santos is already on her phone. Judge Martinez? We have new evidence that needs immediate review. Letters from the deceased showing awareness of beneficiary fraud before her death. The fourth draft is the most damning, and the most desperate. Thomas has been asking repeatedly about my will, specifically about Sarah's inheritance amount and timeline. Yesterday he suggested that Sarah is too immature for a large inheritance and needs years of guidance before she can handle money responsibly. He's already planning to control her inheritance indefinitely. I'm also concerned about his questions regarding my medication schedule and doctor appointments. He's been unusually interested in my heart condition lately, asking detailed questions about my prescriptions and when I take them. Something feels wrong. Carol's hands are shaking as she points to the final paragraph. I'm scheduling an emergency appointment with you for March 13th to remove Thomas as trustee and create a simple direct bequest to Sarah. If anything happens to me before this meeting, please know that I had serious concerns about my son's intentions regarding both my granddaughter's future and my own safety. March 13th. The appointment that never happened because she died on March 12th. Detective Santos hangs up her phone. Judge Martinez has moved our hearing to immediate priority. Sarah, your father's attorney just filed emergency commitment papers 20 minutes ago, but these letters change everything. Through the window, I can see Dad becoming increasingly agitated in the lobby below. He's arguing with a court official, gesturing emphatically while Patricia sits frozen in her chair. His attorney keeps checking her watch and glancing toward the elevators. They know something's happening, Carol observes. Tom called me 3 times while I was driving here, asking if I'd found anything else in Eleanor's papers. My phone buzzes with a text from Dad. Time's up, Sarah. The commitment order is being processed now. When you're released in 72 hours, we'll discuss your future living arrangements and medical care. This could have been handled privately, but you forced my hand. Detective Santos reads the message over my shoulder. He's bluffing. No judge has signed anything yet. But her expression suggests she's not entirely certain. Detective, Carol says quietly, there's one more thing Eleanor wrote that I haven't shown you. She pulls out a small piece of paper, torn from what looks like a prescription pad. I found this tucked inside her Bible, dated March 11th, the day before she died. The note is brief. If something happens to me before I can change my will, look for the safety deposit box at First National Bank, box 247. The key is taped under Sarah's photo in my bedroom. Thomas doesn't know this box exists. The safety deposit box key feels impossibly small in my trembling hands as we stand in First National Bank at 8:47 a.m., exactly 12 hours after Judge Martinez signed an emergency protective order preventing Dad from having me committed. The bank manager, Mrs. Chen, escorts us to the vault with Detective Santos and Carol flanking me like bodyguards. Box 247 hasn't been accessed since March 2019, Mrs. Chen says, sliding her master key into the first lock. Ms. Eleanor Richardson was very specific that only Sarah Richardson could access it after her death. The box slides out with a metallic whisper. Inside, underneath Eleanor's original will and insurance documents, is a thick stack of financial records, and a sealed envelope labeled, for Sarah's legal team. My hands shake as I open it. Grandma Eleanor's final letter, written in her careful script. My dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, then Thomas prevented me from changing my will as planned. I've been documenting his financial desperation for months. Patricia told me in January that Thomas promised to pay for their entire wedding and honeymoon, over $60,000, using his inheritance from me. He's been spending your money before I'm even dead. I've also discovered forged documents in his briefcase, practice versions of trust amendments with my signature copied from Christmas cards. He's been planning this theft for almost a year. The real evidence is in this box, recordings of our conversations where he asks about changing my will, photographs of the forged documents, and copies of his business loan applications where he lists my estate as collateral. Thomas doesn't just want your inheritance, Sarah, he needs it to avoid bankruptcy. His business owes $347,000 to creditors, and Patricia's spending has accelerated his timeline. I pray you never have to use this evidence, but if you do, know that I fought to protect what's rightfully yours. All my love, Grandma Eleanor. Detective Santos immediately begins photographing everything while I stare at the final item in the box, a small digital recorder, still containing a conversation between Dad and Grandma Eleanor from February 2019. We listen to Dad's voice, warm and persuasive. Mom, Sarah's so young. $200,000 would ruin her. Look at how college kids spend money. What if we structured something long-term? I could manage it responsibly, maybe take a small fee for the administrative work. And Grandma Eleanor's response, firm despite her age, Thomas, that money is Sarah's future, not your business loan collateral. I never said anything about business loans, Mom. You didn't have to. Patricia showed me the wedding venue contract yesterday, $35,000 for the reception. Where exactly did you tell her that money was coming from? The recording captures Dad's long pause, then his voice, colder. We'll discuss this later, Mom. When you're thinking more clearly. By 10:15 a.m., we're back at the police station where Dad sits in interview room 2, his expensive suit wrinkled and his confident expression finally cracked. His attorney whispers urgently in his ear while Detective Santos spreads the evidence across the table, the forged trust amendments, the business loan documents listing my inheritance as collateral, the recordings, Patricia's receipts for purchases made before Grandma Eleanor was even dead. Mr. Richardson, Detective Santos begins, your mother documented extensive evidence of your plan to defraud your daughter's inheritance. She also recorded conversations where you discussed your financial desperation and her estate as a solution to your debts. Dad's mask finally slips completely. She was 91 years old and confused about money. Those recordings don't prove anything except that I was trying to protect Sarah from making terrible financial decisions. Like the terrible decision to buy your wife a $15,000 engagement ring with money that didn't belong to you? I slide Patricia's receipt across the table, dated January 2019, 2 months before Grandma Eleanor died. You were spending my inheritance before she was even dead, Dad. His attorney tries to intervene, but Dad's control finally snaps. You have no idea what real financial responsibility looks like, Sarah. You've been living like a college student for 4 years while I built something substantial with that money. A business, a marriage, a real life. Your grandmother's hoarding that money in some account wouldn't have helped anyone. So you decided to help yourself to all of it. I decided to make it productive instead of watching you waste it on ramen noodles and a studio apartment. Detective Santos leans forward. Mr. Richardson, you've just confessed to embezzling your daughter's inheritance. The question now is whether we're also charging you with your mother's murder. The toxicology results came back yesterday. Grandma Eleanor's exhumed remains showed lethal levels of digoxin, her own heart medication, but in doses 50 times higher than prescribed. The medical examiner confirmed it would cause rapid heart failure that mimics natural death, especially in elderly patients. Dad's face goes white. That's impossible. She died of natural causes. She died 12 hours after confronting you about the forged trust documents she found in your briefcase, Detective Santos continues. 36 hours before her appointment to remove you as trustee and protect Sarah's inheritance. You killed her, I whisper, the words barely audible. You murdered your own mother for money. For the first time in 4 years, my father looks at me without calculation, without manipulation, without lies. Just raw, desperate fear. Sarah, you have to understand, I never meant for any of this to happen. The business was failing, Patricia expected a certain lifestyle, your grandmother was going to destroy everything. His attorney puts her hand on his arm, but it's too late. The confession hangs in the air between us like smoke. 3 months later, I'm sitting in my new apartment, a real apartment with a bedroom and a kitchen table, writing a letter to Grandma Eleanor's grave when Detective Santos calls with a final update. Sarah? The judge signed the restitution order. Thomas Richardson will pay back $247,000 plus interest and penalties. Total amount, $284,000. My inheritance, plus 3 months of interest, plus punitive damages for the theft and emotional suffering. Dad took a plea bargain, 15 years for second-degree murder, 5 years for embezzlement, to run concurrently. Patricia filed for divorce and moved back to her mother's house in Ohio, claiming she never knew where the money came from. I don't believe her, but I don't care anymore. The money hit my account yesterday, $284,000, finally and permanently mine. I quit Romano's Pizza, paid off my student loans, and enrolled in graduate school for financial crime investigation. But mostly, I bought a beautiful headstone for Grandma Eleanor's grave, engraved with her favorite quote, "The best thing you can give someone is the freedom to make their own choices." She fought to give me that freedom, even when it cost her everything. Now I finally have it.